All right, friends, welcome to part 2, questions 11 through 20. Up first is direct repair of an aneurysm associated with occlusion of the vertebral artery. So I'm going to start my search at the main term of repair, and then I can start searching through here until I find artery. Nice, there's artery. And then keep searching for direct repair of aneurysm. And then there's your vertebral. So again, I started with the main term repair, and then what am I repairing? I'm repairing the artery. What artery? The vertebral artery. And what type of repair is it? A direct repair of an aneurysm. All right, and then we'll just click right here. Nice. We know that this is a 35005. I lost it. There we go. All right, so parent code. Parent code first. Direct repair of aneurysm. Check. Awesome. Pseudoaneurysm or excision, etc., etc. Stop at that semicolon. All right, so we've covered the first part, direct repair of aneurysm. And associated, now this is for aneurysm associated occlusive disease, but it's the wrong artery. This is carotid, subclavian, etc. So come down a little bit, and now you're going to be at for aneurysm, pseudoaneurysm, and associated occlusive disease for vertebral artery, 35005. All right. Let's move on to number 12. Number 12, we have a harvesting of a vein. It's coming from the upper arm, so upper extremity. What's it for? It's for a coronary artery bypass procedure, and it's telling us code the vein harvest only. So if you go to harvest, you're not going to find a singular index entry. So hint, go to harvesting. Now, there's more than one way to look up this code, but I found, again, I like to try to my most direct path from A to B. So if I put in harvesting has its own index, main term index entry. So I'm going to scroll down over here, and I'm going to go to harvesting. All right, now I'm at the main term harvesting, and then I want to start looking for what I'm harvesting, which is vein extremity, venous. There we go, upper extremity vein. And then what's it for? It's for a coronary artery bypass procedure. So for bypass graft. All right, let's go look at this one, 35500. Bypass graft, vein. Procurement of the saphenous vein is included in the description of the work. Okay, just some extra bonus guidelines here, and should not be reported. Oh, here's something for us. To report harvesting of an upper extremity vein, use 35500 in addition to the bypass procedure. That is why it's telling you inside of your code question to code for the harvest only. Why? Because your guidelines tell you to use this in addition to the bypass procedure. But again, your instructions were to code the harvest only. So coding harvest only puts us at 35500. Now, bonus plus sign. This plus sign means this is a add-on code. This means that in real world application, this code would never stand alone. That's why you have the guideline here to use it in addition to the bypass procedure. Okay, so again, real world, you would be coding the bypass procedure, and this would be the second code, the additional service. Okay, so another thing about the add-on code, or excuse me, the symbol, plus sign symbol, this is never applied on a claim form. We do not use additional characters like pluses, dashes, slashes, anything like that. The plus sign is for us as coders only. It's for us to see in our books to identify an add-on code from a regular single reported service code. Okay, so just remember, plus signs are only for us to see inside of our coding manuals to identify it as an add-on code. Never use this plus sign on your actual claims. Okay, you just use a regular code 35550. All right. And then there's all the details we need. One segment, harvest upper extremity vein. Okay. And then it also, again, it says list procedure separately in addition to code for primary procedure. That's another clue for you that this code would never be a standalone code. Okay. When it says list separately in addition to code for primary procedure. Hint, hint, this is not your primary. However, the test only wanted you to code for the vein harvest only, which is what we just did, 35550. All right. Moving on to question number 3. A coronary artery bypass graft using 2 arterial grafts. Ooh, all right. So we could pretty much put this whole term in here. I also wanted to share with you that this is also called a cabbage for short. So I just want to put this in for you. If I put in CABG, that's short for coronary artery bypass graft. Just a little fun fact there. All right. And now that brought me over to coronary artery bypass graft, AKA a cabbage. And now what do I need? Arterial grafts. All right. So I'm looking at arterial bypass. And then there's a code range 33533 through 33536. 2 arterial grafts. This is as close as we're going to get from our index, and from here we would want to just search through this range of codes and ask ourselves, what's going to be the difference between that range? When you see a dash in a range of codes, one's going to be the parent code, and then the rest of them are going to be variations of that service. So as we can see here, 33533 through 33536 all were the same base procedure, coronary artery bypass using arterial graft. Stop at the semicolon. Okay, so there's your cabbage using an arterial graft. And then how many? 2, which brings us to 33534, 2 coronary arterial grafts. 33534. All right. Let's move on to question number 14. Question 14 is the insertion of a single chamber pacing cardiodefibrillator pulse generator. Whew. All right. I'm going to give you my clue again. I always say go over inside of your index to cardiac assist devices. Easy peasy from there, because like literally every service is listed. So let me cardiac assist devices. It has its own index entry. Cardiac assist devices. There we go. And then from there, I'm going to start looking for defibrillator, pulse generator, insertion. There's my defibrillator, insertion, pulse generator. Now, from here, right, we've got some options. So I'm asking myself, and these are all single codes. So I'm saying, I wonder what the difference is between these all. Well, To speed this up, we're going to go right over to 33240, okay? Insertion of implantable defibrillator pulse generator only. And then it says with existing leads. So if we're only inserting the pulse generator, then it would tell us when there's leads. And since there isn't, we're going to use with existing leads. And then it also gives us some extra details here. Now I'm curious, since we're over here, remember one of the other codes was like a 33230. Where was that? Go back over there. 33230. Asking yourself, what's the difference? Well, the difference is insertion of, the difference is that this would be with existing dual leads. All right, so we'd have to say dual leads, multiple leads, etc. All right, so we're going to go with 33240. And again, unless it mentions with leads, with electrodes, with leads, then you can, you're going to go with just that it's existing. It's already existing. They already have leads that are already there. All right. So 33240 on that one. All right, let's move on to number 15. Another cabbage. This one's using a saphenous vein. All right, so I'm going to go back over to cabbage. Now, this time, I know that this is a venous, right? Because it says vein graft. So let's see here. These all say the same thing. All right, so we're back over here to our cabbage, and now I'm going to start looking for a venous bypass. Here we are. Now we have a range of codes. So remember what I told you, when you see a range, that means you're going to have a parent code and all these other ones are going to be variations of that service. So now I'm thinking to myself, wonder what the difference is between all of these. Maybe it's the vein. Maybe it's going to be specific, and we'll find one that's related specifically to the saphenous vein. Let's see. Let's read guidelines. The following codes are used to report coronary artery bypass procedures using venous grafts only. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Procurement of the saphenous vein graft is included in the description of work for 33510 through 16 and should not be reported as a separate service or co-surgery. Okay. So saphenous vein, the procurement of this vein is included inside this code 33510. All right. All of these veins include the procurement of this saphenous vein. So even though it doesn't say saphenous vein, okay, it's telling you right here, this is included in the description of the work. Saphenous vein. All right, and it's just a single vein. It doesn't say multiples here, so we're just going to choose the 33510. Guidelines are everything, guys. I can't stress that enough. And I don't want to say especially in this section, but I tell you what, integumentary and cardiovascular, you got to read those guidelines, or you will find yourself potentially in the wrong area for the service that you're trying to code for. All right. Let's move on to number 16. Number 16 is a tunneled, centrally inserted venous catheter without pump or port, 72-year-old patient. All right, so base service. Base is a central, we're inserting a central venous catheter. So I'm actually going to copy this, put this in as my main terms, central venous catheter, and let's see where I can go from here. Index, there's catheter placement, venous catheter placement. There we go. Central venous catheter placement. And now let's get our details. Tunneled, without port or pump. And then we've got 3 code options to choose from here. All right, so again, I'm going to speed up our process. I'm sure you went through all those different codes. So this little detail in a 72-year-old patient is going to end up being a part of our code. As you can see, this one says age 5 years or older. All right, so here we are. Got to come up to our parent code. Insertion of tunneled centrally inserted central venous catheter without pump or port. Stop at that semicolon. Boop. And then we want to have one that represents for a 72-year-old patient, which is going to be 36558. All right, moving on to number 17. Now we're doing a venous bypass graft for an occlusive disease, detail femoral popliteal. So I'm going to start with bypass graft. And again, I'm going to come down to my index. Now I've already done all the searching here. So I'm going to take us right over to that section. Main index entry, bypass graft. And now I'm going to start looking for venous. And then femoral popliteal. There we go. And then we'll start our search from there. Nice. All right, that's a variation. We're on the money though. Again, always verify your parent code first though. Parent code for this one is 35501. Bypass graft with vein. Yep, venous bypass graft. Stop. And then take it to the specific one for us, which is going to be your femoral popliteal, 3556. Sorry for my yappers there, guys. 35556. All right, moving on. Let's talk about a sepsotomy, open atrial sepsotomy. Detail, it's going to include a cardiopulmonary bypass. Let's go to the term septisotomy. Let's just start there. Down in my index, let's see what other details I can pull up. So I know that this is a atrial sepsotomy. All right, so now we're at the main term sepsotomy, and then you're going to find atrial, and then there's your open. And then let's review 33736. All right, so we know this is a variation. So let's look at our base. Atrial sepsectomy or sepsotomy. Stop at your semicolon, and then open with cardiopulmonary bypass. 33736. All right, last one, guys. A relocation of a pacemaker skin pocket. So with this one, let's see here. You could go skin pocket. A couple different ways you could go about this one, actually. You could go cardiac assist devices. Let's see what happens when I pull up skin pocket. Since it's a relocation of a pacemaker, I could also go over to cardiac assist devices as well. So let's just see here. If I go into my index and I look up skin pocket, I've got relocation of skin pocket. Let's try here. And I believe this took us over to cardiac assist devices. It did. All right, cardiac assist devices. And again, there's a couple different entries for skin pocket, so make sure you're focused on the one that's related to a pacemaker, okay? So now we're at pacemaker systems, then you find relocation of skin pocket, and then you'll see 33222. And then there you go, relocation of skin pocket for pacemaker. Final answer, 33222. All right, friends, I hope this was helpful. And again, for additional support, one-on-one coding support, always reach out to me. I'm happy to set up a meeting. All right, have a great week.